Eastern Montana Veterans Stand Down, September 14th and 15th at the Dawson County Fairgrounds. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm Dorothy Sturlagson. My guests today are Steve Olson and Shannon Kadrmas. They are event organizers. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
First of all, Shannon, what is a stand down?
A stand down, historically in the military, was when troops were in battle, they would take them back to a safe place to get medical attention and be able to have some camaraderie and relax, get out, get away from the battle fatigue and that sort of thing. Now, there were two Vietnam veterans in the 80s that came up with the what we call a stand-down concept now to deal with the homeless population in San Diego, California. What it is it's an outreach to homeless veterans to bring them in to where the community can help them, and they get tied up with services like the VA, mental health, get medical attention. There's meals, showers, civilian clothing, military surplus, things like that. It's really a hand-up philosophy, not a handout.
And you were the person responsible for getting it started in Glendive.
Yes.
Why? How did that happen in your life?
I'm a veteran, and I was injured when I was in the Navy and discharged, and was thinking about going to school when I got out, and called the VA to see if I qualified for any educational benefits. And they said no, because I wasn't a Vietnam era Korean War vet, World War I or World War II vet. 23 years later, ironically, I'm working for job service. My supervisor, Lonnie, sends me to a veterans training, and I hear people talking about disability ratings and stand-downs and things like that. I went to a medical appointment for my VA claim in Fort Harrison, and there were two young guys in there, probably 19, 20 years old, that were freshly back from Iraq. One had caught an IED and was missing about half of his face, and the other one was missing his right arm from the elbow down. And they were talking about the problems that they were having getting these claims through, and the hoops they had to jump through. And that made an impression on me. I'm 43 years old. I've got some life experience. I knew to keep up on my claim and things like that, but I'm thinking these are just kids that have little or no life experience, that have experienced a lot of ugly, and they're having to do things that should be done for them. And this was last summer, I was driving around, and I think that whole thing raised my awareness about veterans issues as a whole. I started noticing more and more homeless people, but they weren't what I would say are stereotypical. They were younger, cleaner cut, and that sort of thing. I started doing some checking on statistics and things like that, and went to Lonnie and Steve and said, is this something that we can do in Eastern Montana?
And Steve, what was your reaction to that?
Well, it was a wonderful timing. We only recently have reinstituted veterans representatives in Eastern Montana through the Job Service and Workforce Services Division. And so the timing was right. We were also continuing to see increases in returning veterans needing services of various kinds through either training or job matching through job service across the state. And so the timing was perfect, and it was certainly easy to support on every level.
Is it fairly common for, you two both work at Job Service, is it fairly common for Job Services to kind of umbrella this kind of event?
I think we're the first in the state.
I believe that's correct.
Typically, I attended the stand down in Bozeman in June, and that was the Vietnam Veterans of America organization there, was the ones that headed it up in Bozeman.
What was the reaction you had from Helena, Steve, when you brought this up, or was there one?
Oh, it was very positive. From our from Keith Kelly, all the way down the line. So, at the Department of Labor level through Workforce Services Division, Mike Cooney, and down to our Bureau Chief, Tiffany David, they've all been very supportive. And in addition to that, we have state level representation in a gentleman by the name of Brad Nelson that's worked, I think, pretty closely with Shannon on some of the details. And not to mention we have other offices across the state that have participated in these, and we're able to share a lot of very good history and experience and lessons with us. But we're continuing to learn, I would say, as we go.
Does job service offer positions that give veterans preference? Or are those usually government jobs that offer veterans preference?
Any business can implement a veterans preference policy. Typically, if they're a federal contractor, they have to provide veterans preference.
And then, of course, within the state hiring process, there is a veterans preference in a portion of that process that's applied.
So what has the process been, gentlemen, for putting this stand down together for Eastern Montana?
Basically, we had to find out what resources we had available in the area, because it wouldn't be the logistics of trying to get people from the western part of the state to come just wouldn't work. So we've been a little bit creative with some of that. The VA has been really good as far as the service provider type people, as far as coming here and supporting the stand down. And then we've just relied on local resources, Eastern Montana Mental Health, Alcohol and Drug, LIFT, organizations like that.
You know, and from the organizational standpoint, from the first meeting all the way through the meeting we had this week, we've had excellent support and attendance from offices in Miles City, Glasgow, Wolf Point, Sydney, Glendive, and it really has been, it's a model, I believe, that for this and other type of efforts that we can bring to bear on other things as far as moving new efforts forward.
And how then are you communicating with your veterans if they're homeless? Certainly they don't have radios and TVs to alert them to this stand down. Is that done through your services?
Basically, it's just like a huge marketing campaign. We've had it out on the radio here locally, as well as all of Eastern Montana. There's a website. I've made up posters. They've been distributed all through Montana. We made up little business-sized cards with that same information on it. I was at a training in Billings and spent part of my time going to the homeless shelters, the VA organizations that are there, and making sure that they have that information. It's been mailed to North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. I have a friend that's a veteran down in Denver. It's been distributed within the Denver metro area.